Yeah, what's up, people? Welcome to this time out with Marcus Okure. Yeah, first of all, I want to say a very big thank you to all our followers and subscribers, for the great job you guys are doing, actually, pushing and promoting this channel. You guys are just too much thumbs up for you. Yeah, quickly today, I want to share my experience with you people, the experience I had recently at, a place called Edinburgh. The actual pronunciation is Edinburgh, but if you look at it in writing, you see it as Edinburgh. Yeah, but it's Edinburgh. And Edinburgh is actually the capital city of Scotland, just like you have Abuja as the capital city of Nigeria. I actually was, privileged to be among, a group of people, persons that were actually selected to observe, a game of rugby. Now, rugby is not a game of football. Now, that handball, some call it handball, between two powerful countries. That's between Scotland and, how do you call it? Australia. It was an interesting game. Now you can see the pitch from the picture or the videos you've seen there. You can see the pitch, very beautiful pitch. Wow. For me, I didn't just go to observe a game of rugby, but for me, there were a whole lot of lesson objectives I picked out. One thing I do when I travel to countries, when I travel abroad, and all that, I try to study, I try to look at for, scenarios and situations out there and possibly look at how these things can actually be replicated back in Africa and in Nigeria. Yeah, so that is it. Now, to start with, when I was traveling, when I was in the bus going from, a place they call Glasgow, to Edinburgh, I noticed that at short intervals, there were, telephone, there were some bus-like structures. And I was observing it. And I was forced to ask the driver, I said, what's this thing for? And the driver told me that that is a phone, is a telephone. As a telephone, along the express, even the bush path, what for? He said these things are actually made there, that the government actually installed these telephones so that when a traveler, maybe a driver, or maybe your car developed fault, all you just need to do is to walk up close to one of the telephone and put a call through to the helpline. And before you know it, they are here to help you. They help you to the vehicle. If you are going for an appointment, they'll help you. Perhaps take you to the place you are going, or just take your vehicle to a very safe corner for you. I was like, wow, this is interesting. It was really kind of, surprising to me, how governments of countries in the Western world, make life very easy and beautiful, and soft for the citizenry. I said, wow. And right inside me, I was thinking, can we have a situation like this in Nigeria? Wow. Then why was it battling within me to really understand the scenario? We got to the sport complex and the whole place was empty. Gradually, I saw people dripping in hundreds and in thousands. And before, right in my very eyes, I saw that the entire stadium was filled to capacity for just game of rugby, that's handball. I said, wow. Well, what it actually surprised me was that the demeanor, the composure of the spectators, those who came to watch the game, and fans and all that, the witness was just calm, and it was so orderly. The way they organized, the manner of it was so orderly. And there were a fleet of cars in thousands, flooded at the car parks. But I was shocked that at the point the game terminated, even though they lost to how do you call it? They lost to Australia. They were so calm. There was nothing like violence. The fans were so calm and they were so orderly. There was nothing like destruction of anything. And not up to an hour after the game actually ended, the whole vehicles outside and all that were cleared off. There was nothing like hold up, nothing. Everything is so organized. And look at the stadium. You can see how beautiful it is. Very beautiful. And at the end of the game, there were people arranged to pick the decks from the floor, arrange the whole place. those who lost items, they picked everything up, arranged them, where they used to put them, and all that. Society is so organized. And I was asking myself, can't we make Nigeria look like this? Yeah, and while I was talking, something struck my mind. A friend of mine told me, say, some of these things you see here, that there was a time in the history of Nigeria that Nigeria was actually a bit like this, but at some point the value system got destroyed. Now, one of the observations I had on my way traveling down was that the pavements, they used to to separate the dual road, was actually a metal pavement. And I recall that in Nigeria, what we have is the one they do with concrete. And the young man reminded me that there was a time in the history of Nigeria that they actually were using such metal pavement. But it got to a point that Nigerians were, unscrupulous elements in our country were actually going to, dismantle them and sell them off. So it got to a point that they had to start introducing the concrete thing. So the challenge we are actually having in Africa and in Nigeria as my country today is not so much or too much of the leadership issue. We know leadership is a big problem, but I think we also have problems of reorientation and mental re-engineering, on the part of citizenry, on the part of followership, and all that. We have a whole lot to do. We have a whole lot to contribute, We have to be transformed by the renewal of our minds. That is very important. Now, when government brings development, bring innovations, bring infrastructures, citizens must comport themselves in a manner, not to be seen or not to be used as instruments of, vandalism, to vandalize these things. Look at the railway Amechi did just yesterday. A whole lot of elements were already going to losing the infrastructure and sell it off at what cost. Now, these are the questions we ask ourselves. So now, so many of the things we see here abroad, at some point in Nigeria, we've actually had the privilege of enjoying them. But it's just that leadership, at some point then with bad reorientation of the people, we saw ourselves coming out of such kind of development. Now, there was a time, for instance, we had water board. Today, we have water board. I believe you understand what I'm talking about. We still have water resources, ministries of water resources, in every state in Nigeria. There was a time in Nigeria that you needed not to even have borehole because it was part of the responsibility of government to give you water. Now they connect water, channel water to your apartment and you get water flowing everywhere. That's how it is abroad today. Now it was like that at some point in Nigeria, but what happened? At some point this whole thing got destroyed. Now we now have empty tanks that now serve as harbor to animals or birds that no longer hold water. Now we've gotten to a point that everybody is now producing or sourcing for water for his or herself. That is institutional finance. But there was water before, and today we are still paying people who work in the water resources. And you ask yourself, what are they actually doing? Are they contributing values? So these are issues, everywhere. But I want us to know the nucleus of what I'm actually talking about is that, this whole thing, at some point, so many of these kind of innovations and all that were actually in place, but at some point they got destroyed. Now, at the end of this video, I want you to use the comments box out there. Just make your comments and your contributions. What do you think actually went wrong? What do you think went wrong? Because at some point, we were actually also having telephones on the road paths at intervals where people can easily make calls, a land phone. But what really happened? And we saw ourselves going back. Does it mean, we are more civilized than the civilized societies, civilized climes? And do you think we can actually get back, to such kind of system or even beyond, like we're experiencing in some developed climes today? I think I want to put this up to the broadcast here. I want you to use the comment box. Feel free to make very useful comments, positive comments. Let's talk about the way forward. Can we get out of this? Thank you very much for staying tuned to me. Still your friend, Marcos Ekure, till we meet in our next broadcast. Saying,